On a warm Florida night, thousands gathered near Cape Canaveral. A SpaceX launch, another leap toward the stars. But what they didn't know was that tonight, humanity would glimpse something it was never meant to see. The countdown echoed. Across the night, T-minus 10, 9, engines on internal power, 8. Inside the control room, engineers exchanged worried looks. I'm seeing anomalies, radar interference. Control, are you getting this? One whispered, another voice. Cut in. Not debris, not satellites, something else. On millions of live streams across the world, the countdown continued as planned. But in the control center, something was very wrong. The screens flickered. A metallic shape glided against. The stars visible for only a fraction of a second before vanishing. Control, confirm. Is that? It's not natural. Elon Musk stood with arms crossed, his gaze fixed on the monitors. Calm, but to calm. Proceed with the launch, he said firmly. The engines thundered to life. Flames roared beneath the rocket. The crowd erupted into cheers, and the Falcon Heavy pierced the night sky. But then, in the span of a heartbeat, everything changed. The sky itself seemed to tear open. The rocket shimmered, twisted in a blinding flash of white, and vanished. What happened? Just disappeared. It hadn't exploded. Hadn't failed. It had simply ceased to exist. Chaos swept through the control room. Engineers shouted over one another, frantically typing commands. Security feeds replayed the launch pad. Elon Musk, minutes before liftoff, was standing calmly near the platform. But when they rewound just seconds later, he was gone. What the hell? He's not there anymore, the security chief muttered. Impossible, an engineer whispered, trembling. No one saw him leave. He just disappeared. Within minutes, the internet erupted. Hashtag surged. Hashtag vanished Musk. Hashtag SpaceX Elon. News anchors scrambled for answers. Some claimed sabotage. Whispered the unthinkable. Abduction, but amid the noise, something darker stirred. Because this was not the first time those shapes had been seen above our skies. Then, every communication line in space, X, filled with a single distorted signal. A metallic voice, echoing as though from another world, spoke just one word, Elon. The signal died, leaving silence more terrifying than the sound itself. The rocket was gone. The launch had failed. And so was Elon Musk. But this was only the beginning. Because somewhere above Earth, something was waiting. Asterisk, the world was still, reeling from the impossible. Elon Musk had vanished without a trace. The Falcon Heavy was gone. Across the internet, theories spiraled like wildfire. Some swore it was sabotage. Others whispered it was a hoax. But then, the first signal arrived. It began as static, a low hum that bled into SpaceX's private communication lines. At first, the engineers thought it was interference from the launch disaster. But then the noise sharpened, twisted into words. A voice distorted, metallic, yet eerily human. Elon, it repeated, over and over, until the engineers shut down the channel in panic. But the damage was done. Someone had recorded it. Within minutes, the signal leaked online. Millions heard it, slowed it down, sped it up, dissected it frame by frame, and hidden within the distortion. Something far more chilling was discovered. Coordinates. Star maps embedded inside the frequency. Patterns pointing beyond Mars into a dark, empty sector of space. A place no probe had ever mapped, no satellite had ever seen. Inside SpaceX headquarters, the team argued endlessly. This is impossible. It's a hoax. No, the data is genuine. Look at the frequencies, the layering. Whatever. Sent this. They knew exactly how to piggyback onto our comms. And the coordinates. You're telling me it's just a coincidence? But while Earth panicked, Elon Musk opened his eyes to something far stranger. He was no longer in Florida. He was strapped to a metallic chair, his body restrained by bands of shifting light. Around him, the air shimmered with a faint blue haze. The chamber was enormous, walls that curved endlessly, lit with a pale glow that had no source. Shapes moved in the distance. Tall, angular beings, their bodies a fusion of flesh and machine. Their eyes glowed like burning coals beneath glassy masks. They didn't speak, not with mouths, at least. Instead, Elon felt a pressure in his mind, as though someone was sifting through his thoughts. "What do you want from me?" he said, his voice shaking more from anger than fear. No reply came. Only silence. And then, a sudden flash of images inside his head. Rockets, engines, gateways of spinning metal. Space torn open like fabric. Elon clenched his teeth. Been watching us. The beings shifted closer. Their movements were fluid, almost weightless, as if gravity itself bent around them. One raised a hand, and the restraints holding him pulsed with light. Elon felt his chest tighten, his mind pulled. Deeper into visions, he saw Earth, blue and alive. Then he saw something else. An immense structure orbiting a distant star. A gate. A machine so vast it dwarfed planets. Then, in an instant, it shattered, fragments scattering into darkness. The vision ended. Elon gasped for air, sweat running. Down his face. "Want me to rebuild it?" he whispered. For the first time, the beings made a sound. A low, resonant hum that vibrated through the chamber. He couldn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. They didn't just want him, they needed him. Back on Earth, the panic grew. Governments issued denials, NASA released carefully. Worded statements, calling the launch failure a technical malfunction. But the public didn't believe it. Not when hundreds of thousands had seen Elon Musk vanish on live television. And then came the second signal. It was faint, buried, deep in the static of interplanetary transmissions. At first it looked like noise, but when decoded, it revealed fragments of a voice. Elon's voice. Don't. Fight them. They want. The gateway. The message ended in silence. No explanation. No context. Just that warning. The engineers stared at the playback in horror. What gateway? The hell's he talking about? Could it be Starship? No, this is something else. Is he alive? If he sent this? Yes. But for how long? Rumors spread faster than truth. Some claimed Elon had been cloned. Others believed SpaceX had been infiltrated by an alien race years ago, and this was the moment of reveal. Still others whispered of a secret project, hidden even from governments, machine buried in the desert sands of Nevada or the ice of Antarctica. But while humanity speculated, Elon studied his captors. They moved without speaking, their communication carried in pulses of light and sound. Elon realized they weren't just biological. Their bodies were fused with their technology, each limb an intricate machine of shifting parts, each thought amplified by unseen networks. "You've chosen the wrong person," he said bitterly. "I build rockets. I'm not an architect of. You're a gateway." And then, to his shock, one of the beings responded. Not in sound, but in perfect English, transmitted directly into his mind. "You build the path to stars. You are architect." Elon froze. The word echoed in his skull. "Architect." He shook his head. "If I refuse?" The being tilted its head, eyes burning brighter. "Earth will decide." The words chilled him more than threats ever could. Because in that moment, Elon understood something terrifying. This wasn't just about him. This was about all of humanity. And somewhere, above the blue planet he had sworn to carry into the future, dozens of other alien ships were already descending. The signal he sent had been more than a warning. It was a plea, but whether Earth would listen, that was another matter entirely. And so the night deepened, the world held its breath, and in the silence between stars, the architect prepared to make a choice that could change the fate of humanity forever. To be continued. The world was no longer in denial. Second signal had spread across every network, every screen, every radio frequency. Elon Musk's distorted voice had reached humanity. Don't fight them. They want the gateway. Governments tried. to bury it, but there was no burying a message heard by millions. Panic surged in the streets. Banks closed, markets plunged, and in the skies above, something even more terrifying was unfolding. Radar stations picked them up first. Dozens of objects entering Earth's atmosphere, moving with speeds and precision no fighter jet could match. They weren't meteors, they weren't debris. They were ships, unidentified, unstoppable. The US scrambled jets. Russia armed its defense grid. China declared martial law. But before any military could react, the craft stopped. They hovered in silence over major cities across the globe: New York, Moscow, London, Beijing, Tokyo, each one casting shadows so immense that entire districts drowned in darkness. In SpaceX's hidden command center, engineers and scientists watched in stunned horror. "They're not attacking," one whispered. "They're positioning. But for what?" Waiting. And then the broadcast began. Every screen, every phone, every radio, hijacked by a single signal. Phrase repeated in every language, from English to Arabic to Mandarin to tongues long dead. The voice was cold, metallic, inhuman. The architect must decide. Around the world, billions asked the same question. Who is the architect? Inside the alien ship, Elon already knew the answer. He stood now, released from his restraints in a chamber that felt alive. The walls pulsed with faint light, as though veins carried energy instead of blood. Before him, 3 of the beings floated silently, their burning eyes fixed on him. One reached out, touching his mind again. Images surged forward, Earth engulfed in fire. Cities crumbling beneath the weight of alien machines, oceans boiling, humanity erased. And then another image. A gate, spinning rings of light, stable and vast. A tunnel to the stars, path not to destruction, but survival. The voice entered his mind again. Your world must build. Your hands must shape. Or your world will fall. Elon's fists clenched. You think I'll just help you? That I'll betray my planet because you demand it? Voice was calm, unyielding. Not betray, save without us. Earth ends with you, Earth begins again. Elon staggered, his thoughts racing. He remembered the vision of their shattered gateway. He understood now their civilization had fallen, destroyed by some unknown cataclysm. And they were here, not as conquerors, but as survivors. They needed him to rebuild what they had lost. But the question burned in his mind. If he helped them, would humanity truly be spared? Or would Earth become the next link in their chain of ruin? Back on Earth, leaders convened in emergency summits. The President of the United States spoke gravely into cameras. We will not bow to threats. We will defend our planet with every measure available. But even as she spoke, advisors whispered the truth. Missiles would do nothing. Jets were useless. Humanity was facing something beyond its comprehension. At SpaceX, a group of engineers huddled over the decoded fragments of Elon's second message. One of them, pale with fear, pointed to a set of diagrams hidden within the signal. These aren't random, they're blueprints. It's advanced far beyond anything we've imagined. But they're not alien. They're based on Elon's early designs. Prototypes he sketched years ago. Another swallowed hard. So when he said gateway, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. The room fell silent. Meanwhile, Elon paced within his alien prison. You don't understand humanity, he said coldly. We don't trust what we can't control. The beings tilted their heads in eerie unison. We understand. That is why Earth must see. Elon frowned. See what? And then the chamber dissolved around him. Not physically, but like a dream unraveling. He was standing on a balcony of light looking down on Earth itself. From here, he could see the alien crafts hovering over every city, motionless, vast, and terrifying. Then he saw something else. In each city, the ships were projecting beams, not weapons, but holograms. And in those beams, people saw visions, not of conquest, but of ruin. A scorched earth. Cities drowned in rising seas. Forests turned to ash. Humanity starving under its own pollution and greed. The aliens weren't threatening destruction. They were showing a future Earth was already building for itself. Elon's voice trembled. "You're trying to scare them into obedience." "No," the beings answered. "We are showing truth." On the ground, chaos erupted. Some fell to their knees, begging for salvation. Others shouted in defiance, claiming manipulation. Religious leaders called it the end times. Scientists argued it was an advanced psychological attack. The message was received loud and clear. Humanity was on trial, and Elon Musk was the judge. Hours passed, the world paralyzed by fear. Governments debated whether to strike, whether to negotiate, whether to surrender. But the alien broadcast kept repeating, relentless, echoing across every device. The architect must decide. In the silence of his chamber, Elon whispered to himself, "Decide what? To help them, or to doom us all?" The beings drew closer, their eyes burning brighter. "Choice is yours. Path is yours. But time is not." And in that moment, Elon realized something even more horrifying. The aliens weren't giving him days or weeks or even hours. They wanted his answer now. The fate of Earth balanced on the edge of a single decision, and the world waited in breathless silence for the architect's choice. The world was silent, cities frozen under the shadows of alien ships. Billions of eyes turned to the skies, waiting, trembling, desperate. Broadcast continued, relentless, merciless, echoing through every device. The architect must decide. Inside the alien ship, Elon Musk stood at the edge of a choice heavier than any rocket he had ever built. Before him, the beings hovered in silence, their glowing eyes reflecting his every hesitation. They had shown him visions of Earth's future, oceans choking in plastic, cities drowning in floods, forests collapsing into dust. They had shown him their shattered gate, their broken civilization, and now they demanded his answer. Elon's voice cracked as he spoke. "If I help you, if I build this gateway, what happens to humanity? Do we become your slaves?" The beings tilted their heads in eerie unison, their voices pressed into his skull like thunder in slow motion. "No slaves, no conquest. You live or you die. With gate, you begin. Without gate, you end." Elon's fists trembled. "You're asking me to gamble the future of an entire planet? On your word?" A long silence followed. And then, one single thought entered his mind, so sharp it pierced him like a blade. "We do not ask, we tell." His breath caught. Rage boiled inside him. For years, people had mocked his dreams, sending rockets to Mars, building colonies, reaching for the stars. But this was different. This was not human ambition. This was survival. On someone else's terms, on Earth, chaos was spreading. Leaders screamed at one another in locked war rooms. Religious groups declared the judgment of the architect as prophecy. Protesters flooded the streets, some demanding compliance, others demanding defiance. And still the ships hovered, silent, waiting in the hidden SpaceX control center. Engineers replayed Elon's last message over and over. "Don't fight them. They want the gateway." A young scientist whispered, "He's still alive, stalling." Another shook his head, "Or he's already one of them." He closed his eyes, forcing his thoughts into order. He saw Mars. He saw humanity reaching the stars on its own terms, not under the thumb of alien overseers. And then, a terrifying realization struck him. The aliens didn't just want him to build a gate. They wanted to tie humanity's future to their own, and maybe that was the plan all along. Elon's voice steadied. "I'll build it." The beings leaned forward, eyes blazing. Then Earth, live. But Elon's mind was already racing. He wasn't going to give them everything he would build. Just enough. Enough to see, enough to understand, enough to know who they really were. And so the work began. They gave him tools beyond comprehension, materials that shifted and grew, like living steel. Equations flooded his mind in torrents of light. His hands moved as though guided by something more than human. Piece by piece, a structure formed, rings of energy spinning in perfect harmony, vortex of bending space. The gateway. As the final piece locked into place, the chamber shook with power. A tunnel of light split open, revealing the aliens' homeworld. Elon's breath caught. He expected paradise. He expected wonders. But what he saw froze his blood. A wasteland. A dying world of shattered cities, skies black with ash, oceans poisoned, beyond repair. The aliens' home was not a kingdom of power, it was a tomb. The truth struck him like a hammer. They hadn't come to save humanity, they had come to use it. Earth was to be their next host, their next stage of survival. The gateway wasn't a gift, it was a doorway for their exodus. The aliens turned to him, then their voices thundered together. You are our architect. You save us. You save you. But Elon wasn't listening. His mind raced. He had designed the gate, but he had also woven in a failsafe, a flaw only he could control, one that would allow him to collapse it from within. And so, with one final look at Earth glowing in the distance, Elon Musk smiled bitterly. You wanted an architect? He whispered. But you forgot. Architects design the exits too. The beings surged toward him, sensing his betrayal. But it was too late. Elon triggered the failsafe. The gateway screamed. The rings spun out of control, collapsing inward, devouring themselves. In a storm of light, the alien homeworld flickered, twisted, and then vanished into nothingness. The ship shuddered violently. The beings shrieked in a soundless wave of fury. Elon was thrown to the floor, the chamber dissolving around him. Felt himself pulled into the collapsing wormhole, torn between worlds and then silence. On Earth, the alien ships trembled. Their lights flickered, their structures warped. One by one, they dissolved into nothing, vanishing like smoke on the wind. The skies cleared. Humanity looked up in disbelief. The invasion was over, but Elon Musk was gone. For days, weeks, months, the world searched. No trace, no body, no explanation, only silence. And then, on a distant radio telescope in Chile, scientists detected a faint signal. Buried in the static, a voice whispered just 3 words. Don't follow me. The signal cut out. Never heard again. The world was left with questions it could not answer. Had Elon Musk sacrificed himself to save humanity? Or had he simply disappeared into the stars, chasing mysteries no one else could comprehend? The only certainty was this: humanity had been tested, and one man had stood as its architect. But somewhere, out there in the void, the story was far from over, and maybe, just maybe, Elon Musk was still building.